Welcome to Gearhead Garage. I know, it has been way too long between videos here. I'm going to blame it on COVID. I'm going to blame it on the crummy weather you can see behind me here in Minnesota. But got some good news for you today. We are headed over to Greg Eick's house. I'm going to talk to Greg a little bit about his racing career, take a little tour around his garage, and more importantly, head down his basement to see what he does during the winter months. Let's get going. Hey guys, I made it over to Greg's house and I'm going to have him talk a little bit about his experience in the crazy world of racing and high performance driving. So I'm not going to steal any of his thunder. I'm going to let him jump right in and tell you all about it. So Greg, go ahead.
Thanks, Lon. As Lon said, I'm Greg Eick. I live in White Bear Lake, Minnesota. I've owned sports cars for 30 plus years, but wasn't really too much into racing. Until 2005, I was on a business trip in Asia and I attended a Formula One race in Malaysia, and that got me hooked on racing. And I drove go-karts when I would go traveling on business. I'd go to go-kart tracks and do that, but that was the extent of the racing. Then in 2016, when I retired, I went up to Brainerd International Raceway to the performance driving school that Gary was running there, and I did some sessions in a Spec Racer Ford, and I got hooked immediately. Worked a little bit, a couple more times, a couple more times I went up there, and Gary encouraged me to get into racing, said you have some talent and you probably want to think about racing. So the next spring in 2017, I took the competition racing licensing school that's at Brainerd and got my license, started racing in SCCA racing in Spec Racer Ford. And I've been doing that ever since and absolutely love it. I travel around the country and do a number of races in the summer. I also started instructing in 2017, and I really enjoy instructing a lot because it's very gratifying to me to watch someone progress and get better throughout the day, or if they come back multiple days, to see them improve and get better and potentially maybe even go on to racing. And I have one student that did that, went on to racing the same class as I am, and now he's faster than I am. And although he's beating me, it still makes me feel good because I know I've done a good job of preparing him and helping him improve. So besides my race car, I also have a Porsche Boxster S that I've taken on the track. I have it down when we do our sessions down at Dakota County Technical College, and it's awesome down there. Great car for that track. I also have a Porsche Macan S, which is a performance SUV, and I've had that on the track as well. And it always amazes people when I take my students out for a ride in that car that they can't believe that's an SUV, because it does really get around the track well. Okay, so just a couple of weeks ago, I was down racing at Sebring International Raceway, which is a lot of fun. And we were there doing a 6-hour endurance race. And one of my teammates and I did it in my car. And what's interesting is that if any of you guys know what a Spec Racer Ford looks like or have seen my pictures, there's no headlights on these cars. Well, this race was going to be from 3 in the afternoon till 9 o'clock at night, which meant we had to have headlights. So we mounted an LED light bar across the front of the car. The first 3 hours we were racing with a lot of cars because there was a 3-hour race and a 6-hour race, and there were 51 cars that started the 3-hour race with us that were doing the 6-hour race. We had 51 cars starting the race. At the end of 3 hours, 31 cars that were only doing the 3-hour race left the track, and then there were 20 there to do the remaining 3 hours of the 6-hour race. Multiple classes. Spec Racer Ford, we were one of the faster classes, so we had a lot of traffic to deal with, Miatas, Mini Coopers, which made it fun, made the time go by. So we did driver changes, obviously, because we had to do 4 5-minute pit stops in the 6-hour race. And if we did our pit stop shorter than that, we get a penalty. And so we were timing the pit stops. We'd refuel at that time, do driver changes. And so as we got going, I did the first stint and I also did the last stint. So we're driving on the last stint, and when I got in the car, we were in third place. Third place overall, third place in class. And so I'm thinking, okay, all I got to do is bring the car home. But before I got in, my teammate said, hey, the tires are shot, so be careful, be careful. And so my first few laps out were pretty cautious, and then I slowly started building the speed up, and he was right, because when we checked the tires the next day, one of my front tires was down to the cords. So fortunately, we didn't have any issues. But what was cool is as the race finishes, I pull into victory lane, and I look and I go, I'm the second car here. We got second place.
Huh.
So yeah, it was pretty cool. So we got second place. Another team that was on our team, a couple of our teammates, they got third place. And then two other teammates were racing the Spec Miata class, and they took second place in that. So we had three teams from our team in the race, and we all podium. So we were pretty happy with that. And here's what you get for winning an amateur race at Sebring. You get a plaque and a bottle of champagne. So I have some photos here. Like this is up at Brainerd, right under the bridge, as you come under the bridge. That is probably in 2018, yep. This is down at Black Hawk Farms in Illinois. That one is a fun little track, short track, very technical. This is down at Circuit of the Americas, coming up over the hill.
It's an iconic shot there.
That's
actually.
what I got, iconic shot. Yeah, I love that one. And then just some of the trophies that I've got.
Well,
my
this
second,
looks like I was going to say second place here.
yeah, my
so.
second year racing. That was in the division, Central Division. I took second place overall for that year. Really happy with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm not less concerned about divisional points now, because one of the things I like to do is I like to try a different track, at least one new track every year. In order to be competitive, if you want to win the division, you need to go to all the tracks in the division. Road America, Brainerd, Black Hawk Farms, and now Audubon. And because you get bonus points for going to those tracks. If you don't go to one of the tracks, you don't get the bonus points, you don't stand a chance of doing well in the championship. And since I want to go to a lot of new tracks, I typically don't go to some of the tracks every year. So, and that's fine. I enjoy the new tracks. So one of the things that we've done is out here, my wife and daughter have got me this metal art of the tracks, some of the tracks that I've done.
Yep.
So this photo here is at Circuit of the Americas. And then if you look down here at the tracks, I can talk you through it. So this is Road America. This is Brainerd International Raceway. This one is Black Hawk Farms, which is in Illinois. This one is Circuit of the Americas. That one is Mid-Ohio, which is probably, no, I'm sorry, that's Hallett. That's Hallett, which is in Oklahoma. And then that one's Mid-Ohio. And Mid-Ohio is probably one of my favorite tracks. It's got a lot of elevation change in it, a lot of blind corners. I really like driving at Mid-Ohio and really enjoy going there. And so I have two more tracks that I haven't put up yet, which is Sebring and Indianapolis. And Indianapolis is right here. This was the national runoffs, which are done every year through SCCA. This was last September of 2021. We had the race at Indianapolis. And I'm the green car right there.
I'm going to say, your car sticks out like it's like should be in the lead, because that green color is just vibrant on that.
Yeah, it really shows up. And I'll tell you, every time I drove down pit lane at Indianapolis, I just looked around and go, wow, I am at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. How cool is this?
Yeah.
I mean, I really tried to soak it in because it was such a experience. And they don't very often do the runoffs there. They've only done it one other time at 2017. My personal opinion, and on the survey at the end of the runoffs, I put the feedback, you should do it there every year, because it is iconic, it's special, and
For
it
sure.
really means something.
Well, didn't the SCCA, didn't they traditionally hold their runoffs at just one track, or did they start to move them around?
Yeah,
Is that
so
right?
for a long time it was Road America.
Okay.
And then they had it in Mid-Ohio for a number of years.
Okay.
And then they started rotating them around and they were doing the whole country. And when they got to the West Coast, they found that attendance really dropped because people who live on the East Coast don't want to drive all the way to the West Coast to race. And vice versa when they would do it on the East Coast. So they tried to pick venues that were in the middle of the country. And now they're on a 2-year rotation. So for 2022 and 2023, they'll be at Virginia International Raceway. And then after that, who knows where they'll go. My guess is they'll go to Road America again. I hope they go to Indianapolis again. That would be really, really cool if they would. So that was kind of fun.
So this is his simulator down in his basement here, and he spends, I think his wife probably has to come down and get him out of here every once in a while to get him up for dinner even. But anyway, I'm going to let him talk a little bit about the simulator itself. I don't know anything about these, so Greg's going to be the expert on this. Why he purchased it, how he uses it, and if it's beneficial for his racing career. So, Greg, why don't you give us some more information about it?
Okay, so the simulator, I got exposed to it down the team that I raced with, and I guess we really didn't talk about this, my race car, where you mentioned earlier my race car isn't in my garage. That's because the guy I rented from originally in South St. Paul, SRG Autosports, once I bought my car, I still pay him to store it, transport it, maintain it, provide support at the track. The only thing is now I own the car. And so that's why my race car is in here. It's actually stored in his facility over in Ellsworth, Wisconsin. Right now it's actually still in Florida because it hasn't come back from our race at Sebring. But at his retail business in South St. Paul, he has a simulator there. And so I would go down there prior to going to like Road America or a track like that I'd never been before, and I could practice on the simulator, and I got really into that. And last winter was the bad COVID winter, and normally we go to Florida for a while in the wintertime, and we didn't go because of COVID, and I was really bored. My wife said, "You need a hobby. I think you should get a racing simulator." And I said, "Okay." And here it is. So last spring I did. So what I did was I used the information I knew about the simulator down at SRG Autosport and the components there, so I kind of had an idea what I was looking for. And so this seat and this frame is the chassis. Bought that from Sparco, which provides a lot of racing gear, Sparco shoes, gloves, suits, stuff like that. This is the same seat and chassis that David has down at his shop. And then the pedals, this is the top of the line pedal set. As you can see, it's inverted just like a real car, and you can adjust the force on the pedals so you can get the proper amount of feedback that it would be like a real car. And that's from Fanatec. The steering wheel and the wheel base are also from Fanatec. They're widely known in the racing industry. And this is a removable wheel. So I also have a second wheel that I use if I'm doing NASCAR races. I can just pop that on and pop a new wheel on. But most of the stuff I do is open wheel cars, so this wheel works perfectly for that. So those are the main components that drive the racing. This is a force feedback wheel too, so it has tension to it when you turn. Depending upon the car, the amount of tension you get is more or less. And if you go over a rumble strip, you will feel it in that wheel. You'll feel the vibration come through the wheel. So besides the main components there, I also have a subwoofer and speaker system, which provides all the sound. And then this is called a butt kicker. And on the underneath of my seat, I don't know if you can see it, if you get way down there and look from the back, you'll see that thing underneath the seat. You see that?
Yeah, it's there. Yep.
That's the butt kicker. So that provides vibration through the seat. So engine vibration, I'll feel that. I go over a rumble strip, I'll feel that in my seat, just like I would in a race car. And it provides an incredible amount of realism to it. So then the stuff that drives it is the computer. That's a Dell Alienware computer. I bought one that was, you want to make sure you have a lot of CPU to drive this series that I'm in iRacing. So I bought one that probably has more capacity than I need, but that way I know I won't have to upgrade in the near future. And then you'll notice the monitor is rather small. And that's because I don't use the monitor to race. I do virtual reality racing. So I have these goggles here, which is a Vive Index is the system I have. And in the corner over there, you'll see a little sensor. And there's another sensor over by the TV over here. That picks up the motion of me as I'm doing my racing. But the screen is still needed because you need to do when you enter iRacing or get stuff started, it's Windows based, so you have to do it on the screen until I launch the virtual reality, at which point then I do everything through here. You can see on the screen what I'm looking at, but I'm looking through here, and the amount of realism that adds is phenomenal. When I try and drive just off this little screen without using virtual reality, I feel so disconnected from the car and from the track that it's hard to drive. A lot of people can't do virtual reality because they get motion sickness, and we're going to try Lon before he leaves today, see how he does. But I've never had a problem with it, and so to me it makes it much more enjoyable. If you don't do virtual reality, then you would typically get a larger screen, because you can get a 49-inch curved monitor, which adds a little more realism because it wraps around. But in this case, the virtual reality is the way to go. So I got that all set up. It didn't take that long. I set it all up myself, put everything together. It's run pretty much flawlessly since. So I spend a lot of time down here in the wintertime. If I'm not preparing for an upcoming race, I will do iRacing, which is a subscription service. And on the subscription service, pull it up here, they have all sorts of different cars and tracks and series. So here's the current series that are being run right now. And this is listing all the ones, they're in order by the next upcoming race. So a lot of these races here are coming at 11:45. And so when you start here, they have classes, just like you would in a regular racing. So you start as a rookie. And then there's only certain races that are available to rookies and certain vehicles that are available to rookies. And so when you start, you have your content here, you get a certain number of cars that are free when you start. And then after that, you have to start buying cars if you don't have them for the current series. So as a rookie, the cars you need are given to you. And then there's also tracks, and there's a certain number of tracks that are provided, and those people that are rookies get the tracks they need to get started. But then as you advance, you're going to need to buy tracks. So I've got a number of tracks here that I can pick from to race on different series, both NASCAR, open wheel, you name it. So it's a progression on the licensing. So you start as a rookie, then as you progress, you go to D, C, B, A, and Pro. I'm currently at an A level, and it's done based on a safety rating that you get, which is you turn so many laps without an incident being going off track, an incident being getting in an accident. And so the more laps you put in with the fewer amount of incidents, then your safety rating improves. And once you get a high safety rating above 3 and you've done a certain number of races in your class, then you can move up to the next class. What I've found is that at the lower classes, especially the rookie, a lot of people out there are not taking this seriously, and there's wrecks all over the place, and it gets very frustrating. So the quicker you can move up to a higher level where people are actually driving seriously, the better. And just to give you an example, right now there's 7,851 people logged in online worldwide doing this. So if I'm going to do a race, I'm going to be racing from someone from Spain, Germany, Australia. In the wintertime when I'm not preparing for a race, I'll come down here, I'll do a series that I'm interested in. For example, last week I was driving an F3 car at Virginia International Raceway. That's a C-class series. I've got an A-class racing, but it's a fun car to drive and it's a fun track. And so I'll do that, and I'll come down here and I'll race 4 or 5 hours a day. It's very easy. Again, you do a race, basically by the time you practice, qualify, and race, it's an hour or 45 minutes. Then you take a break, you come down and do it again. And so the time goes by really fast. Now, if I'm preparing for a race, for example, Sebring, we talked about Sebring in that 6-hour race. I will come down here and I'll load the Sebring track. You can do a test drive. So I can click a test drive here, and on a test drive, I can pick the car I want to do, I can pick the track. So for example, with Sebring, I could pick what time of day I wanted to race, because as I mentioned before, it's a 6-hour race, so we're racing at night. Now obviously the Spec Racer Ford in iRacing does not have lights, so I had to drive a different car. So I used a Porsche Cayman GT4, which handles similar to a Spec Racer Ford. So what I would do is, since I knew I was going to be driving for an hour and then a break, first I came down, did a test session in the car, got used to the track. Then I'd go back out, change it to nighttime, so I got used to driving with headlights at night. And then I started doing racing. So besides racing against real time against live bodies, I can also race against the computer, artificial intelligence, where I can set the track, the time of day, how many cars I want to race against, the skill level of those cars, and then I can do practice races. So what I would do preparing for my 6-hour event at Sebring was I'd come down, I'd do a 20-minute qualifying in the morning. Then I'd wait a little bit. Then I'd come back, I'd do a 1-hour race in the afternoon. Then I'd take an hour break. Then I'd come back and do another hour race at night, at late afternoon, sunset. Then I'd take an hour break. Then I'd come do another hour race in the dark. So I got my body conditioned to driving in those conditions and being in the car that amount of time, so that when I got to Sebring and actually did the 6-hour endurance race, none of the bumps on the track were a surprise to me. My body was used to being able to drive for that long and then take a break and drive that long again. So I was very well prepared for it. So this is invaluable for not only learning the track, so that when you go to a new track, you understand nothing's a surprise. You know where the turns are, you know where the blind turns are. But it's also good for getting your body conditioned to be able to drive for extended periods of time, especially if you're going to do an endurance race.
Greg's all suited up here, so to speak. He's got his gloves on. He's got his, I'm going to call it his helmet on, so he can kind of see what's going on. Plus, the screen shows the same thing that Greg is seeing. So I'm going to try and video this, and Greg's going to explain it as he goes along. So go ahead, Greg.
So Lon, I would suggest you get directly behind me, because it's this curved screen, so you'll get a better view of the image if you're directly behind me.
Okay, I'm right on your head.
You ready?
Yep.
So as I mentioned, on with virtual reality, I can look around, I can look over to my right, I can see that porta potty, or I can look down and see my safety belt, where if I was just on a fixed screen, all you see is what I'm looking at right now, straight ahead. And so when I'm racing, if a car has come alongside me, I can turn my head and I can see that car, which I can't do if I just was racing on a fixed monitor.
Okay.
All right, so one thing I didn't mention is you can get these simulators with an H-pattern gear shifter. I decided not to do that because most of the cars I was going to race on here have paddle shifters, and I thought I can still do any car with a H-pattern shifter, I can still do paddle shifting with it. So this is a Spec Racer Ford. This is the car that I drive, painted just like my car, and although it's a 5-speed, I will be doing paddle shifters, and I'll show you how it works. So go out, take a couple laps.
Okay, let's go.
All right, so I put her in gear, away we go. And just like a real car, you have cold tires on your out lap, you gotta be careful. So we'll take it easy on this first lap and then we'll speed up a little bit. So this gives me a really good chance to get a feel for what Road Atlanta is like, since I've never been there before. So now when I get down there, nothing will be a surprise to me.
So Greg, on your monitor there then too, it shows RPM, so you know when to shift. Everything is
yeah,
there.
So just like my race car, it has lights. So if you look at the top of my dash,
Yep.
you'll see those are my shift lights.
Okay.
And so when the whole dash is lit up left to right, then it's time to shift. Or you go by engine noise, which is what I do too. And as you can see, I've got mirrors on the car just like my regular car. So I can watch what's coming behind me. All right, here we go. Car's pushing a little bit, tires are still cold.
All right, I'm here with Greg again. We're in his garage. You can see some memorabilia on the wall here. He talked earlier about his involvement when he was with 3M, which was really cool. Of course, Greg's a Porsche guy, as you can plainly see by his yellow, beautiful looking Porsche. I'm gonna let him talk a little bit about it and if he enjoys it or not, which I'm sure he does.
Yeah, so prior to having this, I was a BMW guy. So I had a couple M3s, an M5, an M Roadster, which is a convertible kind of like this, and loved them. And then I bought this because what happened was my my wife was saying, well, you know, maybe you want to try something a little newer because my other car was a 98. It was getting a little old. Okay. So I found this. It actually took me 6 months because I wanted to buy a used one. I wanted specific gear. This is a 2005. Specific wheels, specific stereo, manual transmission. And it took me 6 months of shopping the country to find this car. And I found it at a Porsche dealer in Portland, Oregon. And as a matter of fact, I was in Hawaii on vacation when I saw this car online. And then when I got back, I flew out, I did the paperwork, everything over the phone, flew out to Portland, checked it out, it was fine, put it on a truck, sent it home. So I've had this car now since 2010. So this is my 11th year with the car. I absolutely love it. And now that I have this, I don't know that I could go back to a BMW because there truly is a difference on how they perform. And so at that time, we still had an M3 convertible, which my wife was driving, and she decided she wanted an SUV. And so we got rid of the M3 and we bought a Porsche Macan S SUV, which is a performance SUV, and that thing is wonderful too. But this thing is, it's very nimble and it's powerful, but not overly powerful. I think it's 280 horsepower, but it's very, very light. So on a track like Dakota County Technical College, where we do our driving events, this car really shines because it's very nimble, very quick, and you can really scoot around that track. Where you get up a track like Brainerd, where it's longer straightaways, a little more high performance, car performs better. This is still fun there, but just a little different environment. So I anticipate I'll probably have this car for quite a while because it's still in really good shape. I think I have 55,000 miles on it, something like that. And I would drive in the summertime. I put maybe now 2,500 miles a year on it. When I was working still, I drive it more, so I'd maybe put 3,500, 4,000, but now not much. So if you come down to Dakota County Technical College for an event, I will, unless it's pouring rain or snow, and I'm probably going to have this car down there, and would be happy to take any of you out for a ride in that if you want to see what it's like.
Greg has got the coolest Toyota pickup that I've ever seen. I mean, I'm not really a pickup guy, but I am. But I mean, this thing is cool. So I'm gonna see if I can show you this outside. Yeah, let's do that. Just for kicks, I want you guys to see this because it is really, if you guys want a pickup, this is the pickup you want to buy. So it's a little dirty. Yeah, just like my car. And
that's a 2015 Tundra TRD Pro. And it's a limited edition model. It's an off-road version type truck. It's kind of Toyota's response to the Raptor. This model first came out in 2015, and that is a 2015, and they're limited. You can't just go order one. Toyota allocates to dealers how many they get. Most dealers get one a year, sometimes two. And this one, I wanted that color. It only comes in 3 colors for a specific model year. And that year was orange, black, and white. And I badly wanted that color. Luther Toyota had this one in. I went out, drove it. My wife said, we have to get this truck. So we bought it and have had it ever since. I very rarely see another one of those in that color around here.
For sure.
Very rare. It's very, so they're probably making 3,000, 3,500 a year. And if you watch the Super Bowl, you saw Toyota had a new commercial out for the new Tundra, and they have a new version of this TRD Pro in a color very similar to that, and it's very intriguing to me. However, it sounds like there's difficulty getting them now. They're going to be coming out this spring, but with the global automobile shortage, it's difficult to get one. But the other thing that I'm not so sure I like about it, this one's got a V8 and it sounds phenomenal. The new one's got a Turbo 6 hybrid, and they actually are piping in engine noise into the cabin, so it sounds good, and they're using engine noise from that truck, from my version. And that's not right.
That's not fair.
It's not right.
Hey guys, there you have it. A nice little visit with Greg Eick over in his garage. Where I was able to get in and talk to him a little bit about his racing career, how he got started. That simulator in the basement, I've got to tell you, that thing is just utterly fantastic. That is so cool. He let me put the goggles on, do a couple of laps. And to be honest with you, I got a little woozy. I'm not going to lie. It was one of those things where it's, when you get used to it, I'm sure it works fine. But hey, I get upset stomach on a tilt-a-whirl. So it doesn't bother me to drive a vehicle, but that kind of affected me a little bit. It's a great opportunity for Greg, though. I mean, man, he's able to call up the track. He's able to get out, do some laps on that track before he even gets there. So, for instance, he was telling me at Sebring, he was able to get on the track, do some laps. And when he got down there, the little seat vibrations actually simulated the little bumps that are in the track down at Sebring. So, great setup for Greg. Thanks again, Greg, for having us out. We hope to see you guys next time on Gearhead Garage. See you later.